Okay guys, let's get to creating sections. This is my instructor file and I already have 2 sections already created, and I'll create 2 more or maybe 1 more from scratch. But first let's take a look at the anatomy of a section. So I'm going to click on this number 4 here. It should take me to that section. Section is basically a vertical cut view of the house or the building that you are building or drawing. And it'll have additional information, mostly vertical information, like how tall is it, because on a floor plan you can't really tell how tall things are. On top of that, you'll have additional information such as like detailed view callouts. So specifically here we're telling the contractor and the plan checker detailed view of this area will be on sheet A701, and this is, let's take a look at that. And that's really our standard detail for what we call a fire rated soffit, so where you have your stucco that comes underneath and covers the overhang so that, you know, fire embers won't go through and then get into the attic and burn the roof. So it's like a little extra fire protection that you have to do for areas that have very high fire zone rating. And so in order to draw such kind of detailed view is virtually impossible to do when you're looking at a drawing that big. So on sections, oftentimes you will have detail callouts, maybe a detail callout for the foundation. Other information you will have specifically more like insulation and really framing member size if you already know them. In our case, we don't like to repeat information, so a lot of the framing sizes will be already in the engineering drawings. So usually we'll call out 2 by ceiling joist, C structural for additional information. So that's pretty much kind of the anatomy of a section. So let's get to creating this drawing. So in order to create a section from scratch, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the section tool here, and I'll cut one through the door and through the closet and maybe through the windows possibly. So cut one here, I'll click, bring it down a little bit so that cutting through all the pieces. Also, I don't like my section line going all the way through because it just tends to confuse a lot of things. So I like to use this break line tool there and kind of cut it back so it kind of knows what we're doing. And let me move this note. And this is why it's also important to have that first line of dimension far away so that you could have other annotation. If not, it can look crazy. You know, like if you're cutting through like that and you have lines cutting through, I don't like them. So I definitely like to make sure that I can write and annotate inside the dimension line. So here's my section, and if I click on that, or the section line, it tells me that this section's looking through and showing me everything in this viewing box. And on a section, I do not like to see anything but the actual sliver of the wall. So I'll bring that section viewing box all the way down. I'm pretty sure there's a way of just not showing that at all and just cutting right at that line, but this is what we kind of do in our office. So I make that viewing box as thin as possible, so I'm literally looking at that sliver. And if I double click on that, that's my default section there. So Revit has given me quite a bit of information already, but you can see how this is so different from that, right? So Revit doesn't know what to show, what not to show, and what other information that you need to add to make sure that this section looks like what it's supposed to look like. So first of all, I'm going to hide all my grid lines because I don't want to see them. I'm going to hide my crop region because it's just more visual junk at the moment. So here's my floor, And do I have a 12-inch floor? It's a slab on grade. So really I shouldn't have a 12-inch floor. All of you guys should really have a 4-inch floor for the slab. And then I have some, oh boy, this file is kind of screwy. And that's kind of like an outside slab, which I don't really need to see at the moment. So, and then on the section, I don't need to see any of these furnitures or the doors. I just want to see the opening. Actually, I take it back. I think I am going to keep the doors so that visually we know where we're looking at. And these walls are not right. Okay, so we have a beginnings or skeletal of the section of this model. You can see how the Revit model can get pretty messy here, so I'm kind of fixing as I go. I don't need to see that. Well, sometimes you do. They want like top of roof, and they want to know how high it is off the ground, so I'll leave that. But I generally don't like to have my elevation lines cutting all the way through, because it has a tendency to make things look pretty messy. So I'll pull it back. So now I have a basis to start and detailing out my sections. And let's just figure out which one of these elevation marks are really important. I think the ceiling one I can afford to hide, because I just want to tell the contractor and the plan checkers how tall and what the height of my levels are, first level versus second level. Your ground level is actually quite important, so I'm going to just break it so that they don't overlap. And I do want the second finished ceiling and then the roof. Yeah, I think that looks good. So let's start from the ground up and figure out what we need to do. So here you guys are going to kind of need to understand construction details, because you guys are going to have to physically draw them out. And specifically, basically a monolithic slab on grade footing. So we are going to eyeball it a little bit, and we are going to use a lot of detail lines. So your footing should start somewhere here, like that, and at the edge of your wall. So I'm just going to draw some guidelines there, and then go back to detail lines, and I will pick a medium line. And footings are generally, the engineer will determine them, but for now, for our case, let's just go 2 feet down, and then let's go 14 inches across. Let's go 16. And then come up, and it'll be kind of a 45 degree. And then your rest of your slab continues like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this slab. This is the actual Revit floor slab family, so that I don't get confused. And then I'm going to draw my other line here. And I will take it all the way to the edge. So I have one line that going edge. That the reason why I did that is because I want to mirror. So now I can get rid of these lines. The reason why I did that is because I want to be able to mirror this along this midpoint somewhere here. Get rid of that and trim that. So now I have my monolithic footing, or my slab on grade. Let's just go ahead and fill that in with a concrete texture. So we're going to go to this region fill tool there. And let's see if we could hit tab. Yep, I could hit tab. It kind of knows, it kind of locks it around to the drawings that I already drew. I'm going to go invisible lines because I already have lines underneath it. So remember, I am putting a fill pattern on top of the lines that I drew. So those already have a line, and the fill pattern could also have a line if you choose. But in my case, I'm going to go invisible, and I am going to fill in Here, I'm just going to go here. I am not sure if you guys have these families because I'm going off of my template, but I'll show you how to do one from scratch. So we're going to go duplicate, and I'll just call it 173 demo. And then what you want to do is on the fill pattern, you want to hit these little 3 circles here. I generally like to use model, and in the model they should have a concrete. And there you go. So I have my concrete texture all filled out. And then now let's go ahead and add our little grade symbol there. So again, I'm going to just do a detail line, and I'm just going to draw a line that represents the dirt on the outside. And although this line is quite long, remember I have my section box cut here, or my crop box, so it's only showing me a part of that line. And per code, from your finished floor to your dirt, if it's just natural dirt, it needs to be 8 inches minimum. It could be greater, but 8 inches minimum, so you definitely want that note there. All right, and that's why I have my grade level at -8 by default. So there's that. Pull this out just a little bit. Then let's just put the dirt symbol here. You're going to just go to the region fill. In this case, I'm just going to freehand. I want invisible lines, or actually no. I like thin lines in this case. And I'm just going to trace over, and I'm just going to give it this kind of angular . And let's do another one. I'll just duplicate. I may have it already, but I'm going to go 173 earth. And again, on the foreground fill pattern, I'm going to look for earth. Okay, that, and there you go. So now I have that ready to go. Obviously you guys will do the other side, but let me just show you and continue on with vertical walls in a typical wall. Actually, let's go here instead, because that one has a door. So anatomy of a wall, or type 5 framing. So on top of your concrete slab, you're going to have a bottom plate, or a sill plate, or a mud sill. They have different names, but it's a sill plate. We drew this wall at 5 inches. Most of the exterior walls are going to be 2x4s, sometimes 2x6s. No matter which one you choose, it's never going to be perfectly 5 inches, obviously. Again, this is more for graphical, and it's what we call symbolic drawing. And you're going to see it about this big, on your sheet of paper. So whether this is 4.5 inches or 5.5 or 3.5, with the naked eye, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So please remember that part. So let's go ahead and draw a bottom sill. So you have a couple of choices. You could literally draw extra lines here, and that represents the bottom plate, right? And obviously I like for you to draw it in scale, meaning that one should be, I say in scale, but not everything's going to be in scale. Oh, what happened there? It's because it was stuck to this. It's usually 1.5 inches by 3.5 if it's a 2x4. So this scale is going to be all screwy because it's actually 1.5 inches, but then the 3.5 should be somewhere here. So you guys are just going to have to visualize that. And then you're going to draw, and the shortcut for detail line is DL, by the way. That's what you're hearing me push if I'm not going to an icon. So that's your bottom plate. and then the stud goes all the way up. Let's just finish the wall and then we'll detail out the window framing. And then on the top, there's 2 top plates. So instead of just drawing a detail line, you could actually put in a Revit family component, and I am going to try to keep it within natural Revit. So if it's not already included, you're going to go to load family, detail item, wood, and then we're going to go there. And then here's all the wood that Revit comes with. I'm going to need a 2x4, maybe 2x6. I think I'm going to take all of those, and maybe a 4x4 and 4x6 for my headers. So once you load them in, it'll be available for you. So here's my 2x4s. Yep. And this is where I'm getting myself into a pickle here with you guys, because it's going to give me an actual 2x4. Which is not anywhere close to my wall. So technically I don't want to have to redraw my section. What to do? So let's just fake it here and create a 2x5. Again, guys, there's no such animal, but in our case, I'm going to teach you guys how to modify family, but also understand that you guys have to think about what you're drawing. Sometimes it is acceptable to fudge in our industry because there's what we call a construction tolerance, but know when to fudge and when not to fudge is going to be a very important skill set for you to have. For instance, if I zoom out this far, because a section is drawn like this big, whether this is my 2x plate or that's my 2x plate, it's not going to really make any difference. Probably the best thing to do and easiest thing to do is actually fudge the wall, or actually make the walls properly, and then the 5-inch wall, well, you should make that 3.5 inches. Oops. So hopefully it doesn't screw up my model here. Ooh, boy. Now it's going through my whole Revit model and changing everything to 3.5. And I'm not sure if I should do that because it's going to basically offset my walls. Actually, let's not do that. Do not do that. I rather annotatively correct that and do that. I'll just use a 2x6. Knowing that it's a little bit screwy, but I can live with that. Okay, so I have 2x6, and then I have my 2x5 or 2x6 wall going all the way up, and that's basically your wall assembly. And then when you have a window, you're going to need a header and then a sill on the bottom of the window. So again, I'm going to take that, CS for copy style, pop that in, but headers are going to be usually 4x, so I'm going to use a 4x6. So here's my header. I'm going to go CC for copy in this case. Boy, that looks horrible, but let's just live with that for now. On the second project, I'm going to actually give you some custom families that'll allow you to draw this a lot easier and graphically make it look pretty. So right now, with the skill sets that you guys have, I'm not going to make you guys change families and things like that. So we'll just live with that stupid looking offset there. All right. And then you have your wall that goes through. Usually there is a blocking and then your floor joists. So we're going to take this floor up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to just do this. So we have our bottom plate. And again, I'll move that a little bit closer. I have my header. And here I have my two top plates. Oops. Align. Let's align good. Let's align this. Okay, so I have my wall framing all done. And this roof should not be I'm sure you guys remember from your roof demo, but it shouldn't be a truss because a truss sits on top of the plate. But a rafter actually sits down just like that. So that's perfect. And then we'll fix the rest. Let's put this header. I have an idea actually. I'm going to use a 4x6. I thought so. I hit the space bar to rotate it, guys. Actually, I have a thought on what we're going to do to fix it. Let's go back and make these things. I'm going to just select all instance in view. Let's make these things 2x4s again. And we're going to fix it. We're going to make it graphically look like it should. And teach you guys how to cheat. Alright, so we have the wall assembly. These are the floor joists. So what's really important is really the finished floor height. That's where they're going to put the plywood or the floor joist. So we're going to copy this and we're going to pop this in. But we're going to use a 12-inch. So they usually have a rim joist or some sort, and then the floor joist continues. Okay. Or if the floor joists are coming towards us, then you're going to take this and you're going to array it. And we're going to click that. And type 16 inches, because usually 16 inches on center, and then let's do 15. And then if you need more, you just click that and go 20. And then you click that and go 19. And that's fine. You know, not virtually every house that you design, not everything's going to fall on a 16-inch module, and that's not a big deal. So I'm just going to ungroup that. I'm going to copy that, CC, and you'll just have one that is a little bit closer. So that's totally acceptable, guys. So we've created a wall on the floor, and so let's kind of touch this up so that it doesn't look so crazy and there's no offset between the framing and the edge of the wall. Let me also delete that. Boy, this demo's going 20+ minutes, excuse me. I think the best way to do it, where it saves everybody a lot of grief, is to hide these lines. So I'm going to go to there should be a line work tool. I use a shortcut which is called LW. It's called line work, and there I could pick invisible lines, and I can say, hey, make this line invisible. See that? It kind of disappears from my drawing. And I'm also going to make that line invisible. That way I can come back in with my detail line, whatever medium-sized line, and kind of fake in a line drawing there. There. So now my wall looks pretty legit. This is part of my window. Again, I can make that line work invisible. LW for shortcut. I actually don't even know where the actual line work thing is. Maybe it's this guy right here. Yep. Anyway, invisible line. So I'm going to just turn off my Yep. Actually, I should have just turned off my window like that. And then obviously I got to do line work there, slice, cut my line so I show the header. Okay, I'm not going to get too crazy, but there you go. So now we're beginning to have that little wall section. Obviously, I like you guys to replicate it here. And this is just going to be a single plate with 2 top plates replicated here. And we're almost there. Let us now go back, and so now we're just going to detail out these insulation line and the room tags and the slope. Okay, so insulation, Revit has a cool insulation tool. Under the annotate, you have this insulation, which is kind of like a line tool. And let's see if I can get lazy and just kind of stretch it across. And hopefully it doesn't look so crazy graphically. And that, I can make that 12 inches. Oh, let's make it, that's too thick. Let's make it 11 inches. Cool. I think I'm going to just leave it like that. You know, you can tell it's insulation. You could also see technically it goes on each bay, right? But again, there's a play or plus, what am I trying to say here? There is a time to be accurate, and there's a time when you're drawing a symbolic. And it's really difficult to describe to you when you should be accurate and when you should be symbolic. A lot of it is just experience. I guess one thing that can guide you is that obviously insulation does not look like this, so that's a symbol. So whether that is 11 inches thick, 10 inches thick, it's not really relevant, because this is not the way how insulation truly looks like. This 2x4, it doesn't really look like that. It's a symbol. So when things are symbolic, you just have to make sure that you're calling them out to the accurate size. But the width of the house should be drawn accurately, because that's what they're going to build out on the field. So you kind of have to know the difference between the symbol and when you have to draw things accurately, dimensionally accurately. So most of the section parts are symbolic in nature, except for the vertical dimensions. Those are pretty solid. Let me see. And I put insulation here. Obviously, in the example, we don't really technically need insulation per code. But on a house, if you had insulation, then it helps with the noise and things like that. So that's an extra bonus. Anyway, I'm going to leave it. And I'm going to add another insulation on the ceiling. There you go. And what do we have it here? Oh, lately it's been weird, but they've been wanting insulation on the roof too, to triangulate that. So let's give that to them. And obviously that insulation is way too thick. I'm going to make that 9 inches. Because at the end, it's just really what I call out. I can call out R30, R24, R15, whatever I deem, or the Title 24 calc's asking me to do. Alright, so I have insulation there. I need a line across here for my ceiling joist. And let's make that somewhat reasonably accurate. That's 11 inches thick, so 13 inches, so let's make that 12. Take that dimension out. I told you this was going to be a long one. Yeah, the sections can get pretty... There's so much to understand about a section. Boy, graphically that looks horrible. Insulation doesn't go all the way there anyway. Just going to stop it there. Technically this will come all the way up to the bay here, and then this will die in. They'll jam in whatever they can out on the field. And then I have a blocking here, so let's go ahead and add more stuff. And as you guys draw more, and most of you guys who's going to start your career, you guys will start in the drafting department. Frankly, it's a perfect place to be, because you guys will learn so much about construction assembly, and it'll just make you a better architect all around. Alright, I'm gonna just leave that the way it is. So there it is, guys. I'm gonna give you guys a break and we'll do another video.